probably dead. His body will come popping up in the last reel somewhere. Eyes gouged out, fingers cut off, teeth knocked out. See, the police are always off track with this shit. If they watch prom night, they'd save time. There's a formula to it. A very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect.
Here's Johnny. Groovy.
Yo, what up, everybody? Welcome back to the Fandom Frequency Network, y'all, where we break down everything in the world of pop culture. And as you see from the backdrop, as you know from the intro, it's all about spooky season, baby. We're covering all the Halloween horror-themed releases coming through the whole month, and we're doing some other special surprises of our own. So if you don't want to miss out on any of that spooky season dopeness, make sure you click subscribe below the video. And if you're listening on the podcast feed on your way to work, on your way running your errands, whatever you're doing on your workout, whatever, man, make sure you click that download for all the episodes are dropping here. And we're getting close to those 800 downloads on the podcast feed, man. Hell of a goal we're trying to hit right there. So let's get that to 800, man. And also, I also want to give a special shout out to all you new subscribers, all the subscribers in general on the channel. We just hit 120 subscribers today before I went live to record this thing, man. So we'll see where it's at by the time I end this thing. But so much great support has been coming into the channel as of late, guys, and it's all thanks to you. So thank you so very much for providing that, guys. It really means the world to us. It really, really does. But with no further ado, let's get into this thing, baby. It's Halloween. Halloween ends the culmination of the David Gordon Green directed trilogy following the original John Carpenter classic, the 1978 OG Halloween, man. And this has been one of the most highly anticipated releases this year in 2022, bar none. Not necessarily up that high for me, though. I am a big Halloween fan and obviously a big horror fan, if you can't already tell. But I was kind of disappointed by that last one, man. Like, it was actually really, really disappointing coming off of 2018, which I think is the best Halloween sequel released in decades, since at least, I would say Halloween 4, maybe H2O or Halloween 2. Those are the only other sequels, in my personal opinion, that come anywhere close to Halloween 2018, in my opinion. It actually really impressed me that they were able to take things back to basics while also telling some new things, doing some new stuff with the story. Even though the Sartain twist didn't work out completely, I like that they were at least trying to bring some bold ideas and do something different with the franchise while also paying respects to it. Now, going into Halloween Kills, a lot of hype was going into that one, and it did disappoint me quite a bit. I love the opening flashback sequence and all that other stuff. A lot of great kills. Michael Myers is front and center. He is the MVP of Halloween Kills. He was awesome, but I didn't come to that movie just for the kills. I wanted some good storytelling, like at least they had going for them in 2018. I wanted to get some good character arcs and get to explore more of Haddonfield and the town of Haddonfield and other characters. Getting back with Lindsay and Tommy from the original, Lonnie, you know what I'm saying? Making him Cameron's dad, making him likable and fleshing that character out. I thought they did some good stuff there, but I wish they would have went more into that direction and really develop the characters and flesh them out. But they didn't really do that. They were too busy running around having Michael fuck up everybody in Haddonfield, and everyone in Haddonfield is apparently stupid. Barely anybody's having guns. There were some guns involved, but not as many as there should have been. No one made a homemade explosive. No one tried to cut any limbs off. No one did anything. Oh, I'm gonna bring an iron and a bat. Like, stupid. A lot of dumb shit going on in the last one. But what I can definitely say for this latest installment, man, it's definitely better than the last one. It's definitely better than Halloween Kills. But the question is it better than Halloween 2018? Is this the best of the trilogy? Honestly, for me, nah. No. It's better than Kills, but it's got its own issues. It has its own problems. It is definitely a flawed film. But overall, it's hella entertaining. There's some really new, bold ideas they bring to the Halloween franchise I did really enjoy. I have a couple mixed elements with some of them, but there's one particular character, which I'm sure y'all know who I'm alluding to already, that I really was digging for the most part. If they would have just ended this character in a better way for the end and the third act, dude, this would have been one of my new favorite characters in the entire franchise, and is still kind of up there because I really dug this new character, which was, of course, Corey Cunningham, the big controversial copycat killer that was rumored going into this film, if people are paying attention to news and rumors and behind the scenes and all that other shit, right? So for all that stuff going down, I gotta say, that's one of my main positives going into this film right here. Not Michael Myers yet. We're going to get to that. Corey Cunningham, the introduction of that character, and obviously this is full-on spoiler, so if you haven't watched the movie up until this point, you've been safe. Get the hell up out of here. This is your last warning, y'all. Spoiler alert, we're going to be getting into all the nitty-gritty, kills and everything, every detail I can think about, and remember, we're getting into it. Final warning. All right, here we go. So, Corey Cunningham in the beginning of the film, and Halloween Ends, which, by the way, is one of my favorite openings to any Halloween film, by the way, was the scene with Corey Cunningham babysitting this kid that's kind of a little shit though, but he's babysitting the kid and whatnot, and things go awry when the kid's pulling a prank on him. And while this prank's going on, that he's making it seem like someone busted into the house or something like that, I was thinking, and I'm sure plenty of you fans out there were thinking, oh shit, Myers is back, bro, and he's about to fuck up this kid or something, or Corey Cunningham or something. What's gonna happen here? But it turns out it was all a prank, and he locks Corey in this closet, and Corey might be claustrophobic or something like that, because the way he was acting, unless he has some other issues they didn't really get into from beforehand, it seems like he's a little claustrophobic, because he got really frantic when he was trying to get out of that closet, right? He busts out of there and hits the kid with the door on accident, and sends the kid over the guardrail on the second story, and they got a really big-ass 2-story house, and mine's, pretty tall as well, like where I'm staying, so I can only imagine what that fall would be like. And the kid falls backward, and this place is bigger than my place and bigger than probably any house I've been to of any of my friends or family lately. So it's a big-ass house, one of the bigger ones I've seen in Haddonfield, or at least featured. And he falls down to the first story and falls on his face and dies, and you just see blood splatter, and the kid just... I'm like, oh, man. And I got to commend them for the gnarliness of that scene and not pulling back because it was a kid, because a lot of filmmakers are scared to do that kind of stuff, especially in modern horror. So good to see a filmmaker wasn't afraid to go there. That is for sure. But where else was I going after that, man? But yeah, so that opening sequence and that opening scene that took place in 2019 for the film, great stuff. And from there on out, I was really loving the character of Corey Cunningham. I was really with him on his journey. I felt bad for him because he obviously accidentally killed the kid, but everyone in Haddonfield ostracizes him and just hates him and treats him like shit. So I was really riding with that character and really feeling for him and the struggles he was going through. And then he ends up meeting Lori and Allison, and they end up befriending him and actually giving him a chance and not judging him off the bat, which was kind of awesome to see because everyone else just kind of writes him off. So it was really cool to see that, and I like the introduction of that, and Laurie kind of giving him a second chance and seeing some good in him, which isn't going to last for the whole film. But everything in that whole setup with Corey and a lot of the middle portion where he ends up going through that dark transformation and kind of going cuckoo bananas and all that stuff, I really was digging it, and everyone kind of driving him to the edge and him kind of running into Myers and all that stuff. While there's some mixed elements I'll get into there, I did dig how he did come in contact with Myers, and Myers' evil almost sort of influenced him in a way. Maybe not directly and literally or in a supernatural sense. I'm not quite sure what they were going with there, but it definitely affected Corey in some kind of way, and you saw that dark transformation of him becoming a full-on killer. And that whole exploration and that whole character study of Corey was awesome. I really dug that, and I really wish they would have ended the character on a stronger note, because the whole end of that was just completely shit on everything before it to me. It really just really ruined everything that happens. He just ends up stabbing himself in the neck and telling Lori, because once he starts going real crazy, he wants to drive Allison away from Lori, and that's another big thing I'm gonna get into in the negatives there. But I just really didn't like where they ended off things with him, but we'll get more into that in the negative and mixed portion of the review and shit. But yeah, so love the setup, like the actor especially. Let me see if I can pull up the name real quick. Let me see if I can get that, man, because I really want to give this actor some love, man. I thought he did a great job with the character. No matter what negatives I had with it, was more writing and directing, not with him. I really thought he did a great job. Let me see here. Rowan Campbell. Yeah, Rowan Campbell. He did a great fucking job. He was phenomenal in this thing. And going on from there, man. And another big positive for me in this movie was, of course, Laurie Strode, played by the great scream queen, the legend of the Hollywood legend, the horror legend herself, Jamie Lee Curtis, who has always been awesome as Laurie throughout this entire trilogy. I thought her weakest thing was in Halloween Kills, but had nothing to do with Jamie Lee Curtis. Just bad dialogue, and I thought stupid writing in their part. But overall, I really dug her role here, and I liked how she's finally moved forward, started to change, started to go through more metamorphosis as a character and changing in her arc and all that, and I really dug that aspect of her character. And Jamie Lee has never phoned in a single performance with this film, even in her worst even in the one of the worst films in the franchise, Halloween Resurrection, she was still good in it, even though they wasted the character and killed her off in a very unceremonious way. I thought she was great here. And other than one small negative element of Laurie Strode's whole entire like role and arc in this film, I loved every other thing with Laurie Strode. Really was rooting for her, and it was awesome to see Jamie Lee bring this character to a close in a very impactful way as well. And it was a pretty good send-off. I have some issues with the overall fight between her and Michael, but the overall send-off of her character, I really loved it. Really thought it all came full circle and is actually one of the few satisfying things about the conclusion of the film for me, because that's more where my negatives lie in this film, is in that third act, is towards the end, because the first two acts for me was really moving and really going at a great pace and really fleshing out Haddonfield and the characters in a really interesting and new way that, other than a few couple small decisions, I wasn't really tripping on. But that third act really let me down, man. So everything with Laurie Strode, though, throughout the entire film, except one small element, loved it, man. And I got to say, all the actors did a great job, too. Just want to give them all the shout out. I thought James Jude Courtney coming back as the man behind the mask, as the shape himself, Michael motherfucking Myers, he did a good job. Now, one thing I will say, just getting into one of my few mixed elements, just talking about Michael real quick, I did think they could have put him in the film a little more and gave him a little more runtime. Didn't have to be killing people the whole time. Just give him some more runtime, y'all. Give him some more stalking or something to do. I just thought his role just didn't have that impact. And as the culmination of the Michael Myers, Laurie Strode era, or the Michael Myers fucking trilogy here, it's kind of like a letdown that you don't get to see a lot of Michael, but pretty much almost every single thing you get with him is awesome. So I will give it that. A little bit kind of mixed, but mostly positive when it comes to my boy Myers. And let me see. The score, really awesome as well. They've always had a great score. I think John Carpenter came back to do this one. I'm pretty sure. I might have to. Let me double check that. But the score was good nonetheless, but I'm not sure. Was it John Carpenter? Let me see. I think it was. Yeah. It was John and his son Cody again. Cool. So same team. They did a great job. Love the score. 2018, I think, is still my favorite score out of all three. But it's still a good score, man. So really good stuff there. The overall cinematography and the aesthetic of the film, I thought, and just the vibe and the kind of the real fall nature that you feel with the film and everything, I thought they did a great job with that. But moving into, yeah, I'm trying to think. Let me see. Yeah, that's kind of it for my positives, man. And just one last thing. Glad they took a swing and wanted to do something bold with the franchise. I don't think it completely paid off, but I am happy to see that the team behind the scenes, they wanted to push the envelope, do something different, and not keep falling into the same formula and tropes of the previous films in the franchise and just the slasher genre in general. So I appreciate that, what they were going for, but I don't think it all necessarily lands. Most lands, but not all of it. Going into my mixed elements, Corey Cunningham. I hate the way they ended his story because, and that's why it's more in the mixed. Everything up until that point for me was really good until he has that confrontation with Michael when Michael drags him into that little pipe under the bridge in the sewer thing or whatever. After he gets thrown over the bridge from those bullies and all that shit, he gets knocked out. Michael drags him in there. My first question right there, why in the fuck isn't Michael killing him? I don't like that. He doesn't let a lot of people go, bro, that aren't small babies. He doesn't let people just fucking go. So to me, that's kind of weird. It's kind of weird, man. You know what I mean? Never seen that in this trilogy. You never seen that. So there's no real precedent there. So I don't really dig that element. Number two, Michael Myers grabs him and chokes him, right? And brings him up in the air and they look into each other's eyes, right? And this is really open to interpretation. And it's not definitive what happened here, but to me, it seemed like they were having some kind of mental connection, some kind of influence on one another, or more so Michael on Corey. Because it seemed like Corey was real obsessed with him and had this weird connection to him and everything like that. And I thought that the ideas they were kind of suggesting or kind of making you think about, to me, were just kind of unnecessary. I thought Corey could have just had his own arc and been driven insane and just crossed paths with Michael Myers in a much more organic way. I didn't really dig the way they brought these two characters together. Now, there is that one particular sequence with Corey killing off Dr. Mathis or whatever, and then Michael Myers showing up at the same spot, killing off the redhead lady that got the promotion over Allison because she pretty much is giving up the ass to get the promotion or whatever. So I like that sequence there. You know, you got Corey stabbing the shit out of Dr. Mathis and everything, Michael Myers doing his thing. But then you get the weird scene with Corey taking off his hand, his bandage on his hand and putting up against the glass and being all weird about it. I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of unnecessary. It's not a huge deal, though. It's more mixed, you know? But it just kind of seemed like unnecessary. I don't like this weird connection they're having. Just let him be crazy and let Michael be crazy and be separate. I don't know why there's this weird connection with them two. It just doesn't really pan out for me. And then my other final mixed thing with that, and with both characters of Michael Myers and Corey Cunningham, is the scene where Corey comes into the fucking little sewer cave thing, and he takes away Michael's mask by just wrestling him down to the ground like he's a little bitch. Now, I understand he went through a bunch of shit in the previous film of Halloween Kills. I understand he's old. He's literally 60s to 70 some years old. I get it. But when you have two films in the same series where he gets shot repeatedly, beat repeatedly, hit repeatedly with weapons, hit in the head, stomped on the head, stabbed in the back with a pitchfork. When you're going through, and he's in a house literally lit on fire from the fucking ground up, and you're going to tell me that now all of a sudden he's weak. That to me, you didn't fill in no gaps there. He went from being able to live through everything, and then 4 years later, he's just weak all of a sudden. And to me, it's very jarring the way they do that with Michael Myers in this thing. You know what I mean? Like, he's not as crazy as the Tyler Mane version in Halloween 1 and 2 with Rob Zombie. I get it. But he was pretty damn close to that. And when he's doing all this crazy shit in the previous film, and you've only seen these films a year apart, and you didn't get any in between of what the fuck Michael was doing, to me, that's stupid. That all of a sudden, he's that weak. I don't understand that. He fought against Laurie and them, and they put up a better fight than that, and he didn't get beat as easy. So to me, it's very inconsistent the way they just did that moment. I get they wanted Corey to get the mask, they wanted him to throw it on and all this other bullshit, but it doesn't really, it's not organic, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense of what you've established in the series, man. Like, it's kind of weird and kind of jarring. Unto itself, as a standalone film, I wouldn't really have that much complaints with it if you were just going off the John Carpenter original. Other than getting shot a couple times, falling off the thing and living and getting stabbed in the eye, it wasn't too crazy other than the gunshots. That's what I'm saying. And if he's weak from gunshots and bullets being in his fucking body, that would make more sense to me. I get it. That's kind of the same case here. You're not giving me any context. You're not giving me any clues. That's the problem. When he can do all this crazy superhuman type shit for 2 movies, and all of a sudden now he's weak, and you don't have anything in between to explain that or show the progression. To me, it seems like you just did that for the sake of wanting Corey to get the mask in a quick and efficient manner, not in a logical manner that's organic to what you've built up in your story. So to me, that's just sloppy storytelling there. At least for me, man. If people out there, if you dug it, man, I get it. But for me, I think it's a little dumb. Just for me personally. Now, if he went in there and had a really dragged out fight, really went at Michael, I would get it. But it literally took him like 30 seconds to get the mask away from him like that. I think that's kind of lame, man. I'm sorry. When you've seen a character do what Michael Myers has done, to me, that seems a little silly. But that's just for me, man. And I'm trying to think here. And then here's another thing that I'm mixed on here. Now, when it comes to the overall confrontation with Laurie and Michael at the end of the film, to me, it's a little unsatisfying. It was a little anticlimactic. It started off kind of strong. I like the way she baited in Corey and all that, and then Michael shows up, kills off Corey and everything, gets his mask back, and then he goes over to get at Laurie or whatever, and all that stuff. And that's another thing. You only seen Michael kill like 3 people in this fucking movie. He killed the doc. He killed the pretty redhead lady. Then he killed the dude and the cop that was being an asshole to Allison and Corey at the diner and shit. And then he kills Corey. He literally killed like 3 people in the whole fucking movie. So, kind of weird, you know. I get they wanted to tone it down from kills, but I mean, I think he might have toned it a little too much. They toned it down a bit much. You know what I mean? But anyway. But the overall confrontation with Laurie and Michael, to me, was anticlimactic. It wasn't really badass. I think their previous encounter in 2018 was much more cinematic, much more satisfying, and much more intense and well done than this one. This one, to me, felt almost like somebody fighting. I don't know, man. It just felt like a simple-ass fight. It didn't have anything really. It didn't have any extra oomph to it. It didn't have anything memorable about it. You know? And then she just pins him down with the knives or whatever, and then slits his wrist and slits his throat. I don't know, man. Like, for those of you that have seen Scream 5, To me, the end where Richie gets stabbed the fuck up by Sam Carpenter, that to me was really dope. She's literally stabbed his motherfucker like 30 times and shit. She's like, bam, 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 slices his throat at the end of it. That to me was more impactful, and I spent only 2 hours with those characters. When I've spent all these years with Laurie and watched all these movies with Laurie, and I get some of those aren't connected to this particular timeline, but I'm just saying as a fan going into the film, you're going to be thinking about the whole legacy of Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode. And when I'm coming into it, and when you have other films like H2O where she literally chopped the motherfucker's head off with an axe, and even that simple act is more badass and memorable than what we got in this fight with Laurie and Michael in the kitchen. I thought it was very boring and lackluster. Now, what happens after that when they incinerate his body in the incinerator? I mean, when they have his body all hacked up in the trash compactor and stuff, I thought that was cool, and that was a very poignant way and cool way to end Michael for good and to give Laurie that send-off and to get the whole town of Haddonfield involved in it. I dug that, but what the fight that got you there was very unsatisfying to me. And honestly, I almost would just throw it in the negatives, but just the stuff that comes afterwards is nice. And it's great that Laurie got to be the one to take him out once and for all. I do appreciate that. But it was just very unsatisfying for me in a way, man. Very mixed element for me. And just, yeah. And then one of my other, like, small kind of negatives of the film, really getting into just the straight up negatives, I hated what they did in the second half of this movie with Allison. They made her a fucking idiot. Because she barely meets Corey, and I get they have a kinship and a connection. They just started dating and stuff. I understand the initial attraction and what brought them together. But once Corey starts being kind of weird, and it's obvious he's being weird, she knows he could be unhinged after he did it at the party in front of her earlier on. And when Laurie, your freaking grandmother, when she's coming at you to try to give you some advice and tell you something, when they have such a tight-knit connection and have been through so many things together, the fact that Allison just says fuck off essentially and doesn't want to listen to her, to me, is not consistent with her character. Her character didn't act that immature with Cameron when he was cheating on her in the first film. She dropped his ass like a fucking rock off of a high-ass fucking building. She dropped him quick. She wasn't playing games with that shit. She said, no, I'm not playing games with you. Now she's 4 or 5 years older, and you're going to tell me some dude that she randomly met a week ago, a day or two ago? Come on, man. He met her days ago. Why is she defending him so much over Laurie? And why is she siding with Corey over Laurie? That to me does not make any fucking sense. When you spent 4 years together and lost your entire family members together and lost everything together, you're not going to listen to Laurie? She's not going to take into account what she's saying? That's bullshit, bro. Or that's just shitty writing to me. That does not track with the characters. And to me, that lessens Allison as a character and makes her really stupid and tries to put them in this conflict with Laurie just to manufacture this conflict when it doesn't feel earned. It doesn't feel like it makes any fucking sense. To me, man, at least to me. Like, if it works for y'all, if it works for you, for anyone out there that's watching this that did dig that in the movie, I understand it. I don't quite understand it, but I'm happy you dug it, and we all see things differently. That's the beauty of art right there. So for me, it just wasn't fucking working, man. So that's the thing with this movie overall. Like, I enjoyed it, but it's very, very mixed, and it's very, like, frustrating for me to watch kind of when I think back to it and when I watched it. I was enjoying that first half, but the second half introduces a lot of dumb ideas, has a lot of sloppy writing, a lot of plot developments that to me are very underwritten, are very sloppily written, or not logical, or not logical, sorry, that's the wrong word. Doesn't really make sense for the story they're telling. You have Corey get all this build up, and he even gets more time in the story than Michael, just for him to stab himself in the throat and then get freaking and then just to get suffocated by Michael Myers, and that's it. It's like, that's very lackluster. Laurie goes through all this cool shit, you know? I mean, like, or sorry, I meant to say Corey. Corey's doing all these cool kills and freaking lighting people's mouths on fire and stabbing people repeatedly with knives and shit and stomping people's heads out like freaking Michael did the Sartain in the first film, 2018. And then you get to that, and then it's just lackluster. It's anticlimactic, man. And I just don't like when movies do that, when you have all this buildup and it doesn't really go anywhere to anything interesting or compelling or cool. You know, no matter how you look at it, to me, it was just very dissatisfying. So, excuse me. So, overall, I dig the movie. It's a solid movie. It's an entertaining addition to the Halloween franchise. But for me, personally, it had a lot of issues in there, especially in the second half. And it had a lot of frustrating and mixed elements for me. So it's hard. I can't really say, if I'm being honest, that I love the movie or that I would put it in my top 5 of the Halloween franchise or anything like that. But it probably rank in around number 7, number 8. You know what I mean? Like, it's a solid entry, but it's not a great entry. It's a little bit of a lackluster finish to the trilogy, but as a standalone Halloween film unto itself, it's much more satisfying in that way. But I think as a culmination to the trilogy and the Laurie Strode legacy, to me, was a little anticlimactic. And to me, especially for Michael Myers, not getting a lot of screen time, to me, was a bit of a disservice to the horror icon that Michael Myers is, and kind of the big reason why us fans come to the movie. As you see on this shirt, Michael Myers is the biggest thing on it. So for me, it's a little silly that they don't include him just a little bit more in the film. Like I said, it's a very big mixed bag for me, but I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. It's solid. It's entertaining. It's not too bad. And I think the more casual of a Halloween fan you are, the more you can actually enjoy this film for the most part. But for all my hardcore fans out there that I've discussed this film with over the weekend online and stuff, I get it if you love it. I'm happy that you loved it. I'm happy that you dug it, and it was a satisfying conclusion for you. And I can't wait to get into a fun discussion with y'all and to see things I see differently. And maybe as I watch this film over time with more distance away from the previous trilogy, maybe I will be able to enjoy this a little more. But just for where I'm at right now in 2022, I'm going to have to give it a 7 out of 10. Just barely. It's solid. It's just good enough to really be a good time. But I think they really dropped the ball in the third act, and that second half really gets much more sloppier than the setup of the first half. But yeah, and they got decent kills, but nothing too crazy. Only that sequence where Corey got back at the bullies, to me, was memorable kills for the Halloween franchise and for the lore overall. So definitely got to strike it down a little bit for that too. But overall, it's okay. It's solid. But I want to hear from y'all in the comments below, man. I would love to see what y'all think about this latest edition of the Halloween franchise. Was Halloween Ends a big success and a very big or not big, but a very satisfying conclusion for you in this trilogy? Or are you feeling more like me and you're not quite satisfied with that element of it? Or do you think this movie is just great and you don't get people's gripes like me, gripes that people like me have with it? Let me know what you think about it down below. As I stated before in the beginning of the intro there, spooky season, baby. We got tons of horror content coming at you all month long. So make sure you click that subscribe button, join our awesome community that's growing. It's growing every single day, and it's becoming such a blast to get into these discussions with y'all. So make sure you do that. And until next time, guys, stay tuned. Don't sleep. Trick or treat. And don't sleep, man. Peace.